All right, thanks everyone. I think people are still joining. Thanks everyone who's on the call, and welcome to the first Water Breakthrough Challenge webinar. So we're going to be talking about the way the Breakthrough Challenge is set up, how it works, and an opportunity for a Q&A a bit later on. So the things we're going to cover today, as you can see on the screen, we're going to talk a bit about the Ofwat Innovation Fund. So I'll give a bit of an introduction. We'll give, again, a bit of an introduction to the 5 strategic themes that we've laid out where we want projects and entries to focus on. And then I'll pass over to our partners, Nesta and Arup, who are going to be talking through the details of the Breakthrough Challenge in a little bit more detail. So talking about how it's going to work, what you can win, how to get involved, etc., etc. And then we'll finish on that Q&A session. So let's jump to the first slide. So as you will probably be very aware, with all the communications that we've been doing over the last more than a year, I guess, we are running an innovation fund, an Ofwat innovation fund funded by customer money. And there are 2 types of competitions, 2 types of challenges that we're running as part of this fund. The first one is the Innovation in Water Challenge, which is just finished, and that's a smaller challenge with awards between 50,000 and 250,000. And we've now given out about 2.1 million of that funding to 11 different projects. And you can find the detail of those on the challenge website, which we'll be putting up later on. But today we're talking about the bigger challenge, the first bigger challenge that we're launching, which is called the Water Breakthrough Challenge. And this is a £40 million funding pot for much bigger projects between £1 million to £10 million. Again, those entries must be led by water companies, but we're still seeking to drive more ambitious innovation and drive more risk-taking within the sector through this challenge compared to the Water Innovation Challenge. Again, enabling new approaches and ways of working and equipping the sector to address some of the big challenges that are covered within the innovation themes that we'll come to in a second. Again, we're looking for partnerships and engagement across the sector and for these projects to really have the potential to deliver big impact and sometimes what we talk about as transformational impact for the sector. So let's go to the next slide. Part of the reason that we're running this fund, or part of the outcomes that we want to achieve through this fund, is sector-wide impacts on innovation capability or capacity. And so some of the things that we're trying to drive through the fund, as well as projects that will have the kind of impacts on customers, resilience, etc., that we want to see, is that they will drive a new way, a new culture within the sector around innovation. More openness, and that can be openness to risk or new ways of working, or potentially to new partners. Better ways of managing innovation risk and more openness to risk, as we said. Collaboration, one of the things that we don't think we see enough of in the sector is that broader collaboration. The IWC has been a fantastic opportunity to see the extent to which water companies can work together on really interesting and valuable projects. But we want to see this extend beyond just wider water company engagement and collaboration and into that broader sector and into other sectors. So hopefully there's more of an opportunity this time around to do that. Adaptability, so trying to change things, having the opportunity to do things in different ways, but also hopefully this fund will provide opportunities in which we actually open up a bit more adaptability within the projects that are being run. So opportunities to test and fail, or test and change course if that's what's needed. Scalability and deployability are big issues that keep coming up in the sector around innovation. So we see lots of pilots, but can we seek opportunities to actually take things that are demonstrated and build them out across different water companies and across the sector as a whole. We hope through the bigger funds in this challenge that actually there's more opportunities to do that, and so we do hope that we see more of that within the entries for this competition. And lastly, again, that really critical thing, which is that long-term view. Innovation isn't about providing benefits necessary straight away for now. It's about creating opportunities for the future as much as delivering on the needs that we have today. So we're hoping that all the projects that come through, particularly with that bigger tranche of funding that's available, that they will have that longer-term view in mind. Great. And then if we go on to the next slide, what are those longer term challenges? Well, we've set out 5 strategic themes that we developed partly through our consultations as of last year. And these cover quite a wide range of different areas, but everything from responding to climate change, restoring, improving ecological status, long-term operational resilience needs, new ways of conducting core abilities and supporting customers and delivering on that wider public benefit, wider public value, and lastly, exploring those opportunities around open data. And we feel like all of these areas are ripe for innovation. They provide enough openness, but enough focus, we hope, for a good range of impactful projects to come through. So that is the background and a kind of setup for what we're looking for and what we want to see. I'm going to hand back over to Catherine now, who I think is going to take us through some more details on the Breakthrough Challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Harry. My name's Catherine and I work at Longterm Challenges and been working on delivering the Breakthrough Challenge. So the Water Breakthrough Challenge opened last week on the 6th and is open for stage 1 entries until the 3rd of June 2021 at 12 noon BST. So please do kind of go away and look at the entrant handbook, ready to enter. It's really an opportunity to win between 1 and 10 million to support kickstart, grow and scale initiatives. And we're really looking for, as Harry mentioned, really ambitious innovation that has quite a high risk of failing. And actually, we're looking at kind of bringing different mechanisms in to support you to kind of take that risk and look at kind of different ways things could do. We want to see within the entries themselves an actual tangible benefit for customers, society, and or the environment. And we're also kind of really keen to see new approaches and ways of working, which will really kind of contribute to that capacity, innovation capacity for the sector more generally. In terms of kind of the process, the stage 1 entry is now open and will be open, as I mentioned, until the 3rd of June. Following that, we will then have a stage 1 assessment where we will review all of the entries received and we will invite the most promising entries to stage 2, where they will fill out a full entry form. The questions for both stage 1 and stage 2 are both in the entry handbook, and there's also a Word document you can access those with the questions. People who are invited to stage 2 will receive an email and be invited to kind of fill out that form on the 28th of June, and then they will have another month, so until the 30th of July, to complete that full entry form, again at 12 noon BST. After that, we will have a judging phase and assessment. So again, we'll have another team of technical assessors from Arup reviewing all of the entries that have come through, and then we will share those the best performing ones through, most promising ones through to judging, where we'll have a fabulous panel of 6 to 8 judges who will review each of the entries and recommend to Ofwat which entries should be funded. Ofwat will then review and make the final decision on who ultimately gets funded, and they will also look to publish a document to kind of detail that decision that they've made there in terms of who's successfully receiving funding. We then will be announcing the winners at the end of September this year. So if you are successful, that's when you'll expect to hear that you've been successful. So just to kind of again recap, what you can win is a £40 million prize fund, and so we expect to fund approximately £40 million, obviously depending on kind of the makeup of the actual entries that come through. They can be anywhere between 1 and 10 million. And also we are open to accepting smaller value bids from small water companies, including NAVs. Please do get in touch before entering if you're interested in this. And the real aim of this option is to support water companies who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate to take part in the Breakthrough Challenge. Entries must be 10% match funded by entrants, and it's really open to you in terms of how you want to fund that 10%, as long as it's not customer money and you're not kind of adding additional costs to customers. So who can enter? It needs to be one of the water companies in England and Wales. This is listed out on the licenses list. And you can also see kind of a full list on our website. So it needs to be led by one of those water companies, and then they can partner with any organisation they choose, including other water companies, SMEs, startups, academia, supply chain companies, water retailers. So really kind of anyone can enter. And then just a couple of things on the characteristics of entries. So in terms of delivery timelines, we're really open to a really broad range of delivery timelines. So please do set out what those delivery timelines are. Really happy to kind of things less than a year, quite fast, rapid fire entries, but also really happy to kind of see things a multi-year and even potentially going beyond the current AMP cycle, which is the cycle that kind of Ofwat uses for its price reviews. So really happy to kind of see things moving beyond that, so delivering beyond 2025. So really open to kind of a really broad range of delivery timelines. We would expect entries to begin within 6 months of being awarded funding. However, if you feel that's going to be really difficult for you and your project because of a kind of slightly longer mobilisation period, please do set that out, and that would be acceptable. But ideally, we would like to see things starting within 6 months of being awarded funding. The other kind of key thing that we tried to set out in a bit of detail in the entrant handbook is around approach to risk. And really what we'd like to see is kind of a really pragmatic approach to risk within entries, and are welcoming you to set out milestones effectively where you as entry partners would be able to kind of manage your project and look at kind of where the milestones are, where you determine whether you kind of adapt or change your approach to delivery, or actually kind of in really, if it's really, really clear that you're no longer going to be able to achieve your intended impact, actually looking at kind of making a go, no go decision on whether you should kind of move forward with your entry as well. And would really welcome you to include those milestones, include their kind of reasons about why you choose to go through, why you choose not to, and also how you might kind of change scope or change your delivery plan to achieve your intended impact that you've initially entered into the fund, and encourage you to kind of look at how you can manage that to enable you to have really quite a high approach to risk and things that maybe haven't been proven. And to be really clear again, be very, very careful on kind of all of your environmental and health and safety risks. What we're really asking you to kind of look at here is actually the project risk and risk of failure of the kind of innovation that you're looking at in particular. In terms of kind of entry value and delivery costs, please do share with us the full cost of your entry, and then share with us kind of how much partners are contributing or kind of you getting contributions from elsewhere. We kind of feel all reasonable project delivery costs are eligible to be funded, but we'd like you to kind of set those out, and they will be assessed along with kind of in terms of the practicality and the commitment and assessment criteria, which Sophie will go through shortly. But there is kind of further guidance within the handbook, particularly around kind of covering labour costs and overhead costs, which are kind of eligible to be funded as part of other project costs. And the other kind of key thing is we're really looking for partnerships and looking for kind of collaboration across the sector, as Harry mentioned. So please do look at and explore partnerships, both kind of new and existing, to look at kind of how you can have the most possible impact and drive the most benefit for customers, society, and the environment. Right, I'm now going to hand over to Sophie to talk a bit about the assessment criteria.
Hi, thanks, Catherine. So I'm Sophie England. I'm from Arup, and I'm also helping to support to deliver the fund. For what we're looking for, we have three categories under which we're looking for our criteria and questions. So these are positive impact for customers, society, and the environment, innovation enablers and innovative solutions, and capacity, capability, and commitment to deliver. Some of you might recognise these from the Innovation and Water Challenge, but beneath these categories, we've also set criteria and questions to help us answer the criteria. If you go on to the next slide, please. Great. Information on each of these criteria are provided in the entrant handbook, and it sets out what good looks like for each of these criteria. For each of the assessors will I suppose score your entries based on these criteria, and in your entry form there will be questions on each of these criterion, and there is guidance on how to answer each of these questions in the handbook, so I definitely recommend going and have a look at it. We've also got a separately available Word document for both stage 1 and stage 2, though I would say the entry form itself on Submittable might be more I suppose easier to look through, and you can save drafts and collaborate on the entry form and copy and paste if needed, just to make it easier to focus on stage 1 for now. Next one. Thank you. So as I mentioned, there's an online entry form via Submittable. So we've had a week of stage 1 entry period so far, so you've got 3 more weeks to go, finishing. So yeah, and stage 2 is due to be starting on the 28th of June and will run for 5 weeks, although there is more information on the Water and Innovation website. Thank you. So in stage 1, we'll only request narrative in the entry form, as I've mentioned, but whereas for stage 2, we'll require further information from you, which includes narrative in the entry form, a completion of the templates that we've provided, which covers budget and program and risks, etc., and also a live pitch of 4 minutes that we would invite you to pitch in. Next one, and I'll hand back to Catherine for that, I think.
Cool. And so we just want to really reiterate, please do read the terms and conditions before entering the challenge, making sure that you're kind of happy with those when you do enter. The terms and conditions do set out quite a lot of details about kind of the requirements of successful entries. And in particular, there's some kind of requirements regarding the use of funding. So basically how you use the funds, and making sure that you kind of respect the fact that it's kind of customer funded. There is a kind of clause about kind of open data by default, where you should kind of look at having data and the learnings you have open, except for that when there's a reason why that might not be possible. There is requirements around the 10% financial contribution, monitoring and reporting requirements, and how you'll need to kind of report back to us on your progress. Intellectual property rights, and I do kind of highly recommend you look at those intellectual property rights. And there's quite a few detailed questions on the entry form around those. So it might be worth kind of chatting through, particularly with partners. Publicity and how you will kind of share and spread the word if you're successful. Conflicts of interest and how we'll manage conflicts of interest. And also then the settlement arrangement, which is ultimately how you'll receive the funds to kind of fund your entry as the lead entrant. So just finally, in terms of kind of how we are setting you up for success. So we've been running these webinars just to kind of give you the information about entering in a slightly different format. We'll reassure you that everything we've covered today is covered in the entrant handbook. We're also setting up one-to-one surgeries. We've been running these for 2 weeks now, and they've been kind of really well attended. You can effectively sign up for one of these sessions and then have just some one-to-one time to talk through any questions you might have about entering and clarifying questions on a kind of a more one-to-one basis. There's also the Find a Partner page, which we'd encourage you to look at not only for this round of the Breakthrough Challenge, but also for future rounds and looking at kind of forming those longer term partnerships with water companies, or if you're a water company, with potential other organisations. And finally, kind of please do use the entrant handbook as your kind of key resource. It's a little bit long, but hopefully super navigatable. So we hope that's kind of a really useful resource. We've really listened to a lot of people who gave us feedback for the Innovation and Water Challenge, but they really want to see a lot more detail in that handbook. And so we've kind of really included a lot more information in there, including things like the assessor's guidance that will be kind of given to assessors.